For centuries, the Honourable British East India Company has been at the forefront of the British Empire. Robert Clive heroically defeated our eternal rival, the French, and captured the port of Pondicherry and the state of India. The Duke of Wellington, Sir Arthur Wellesley, himself got his start in the war to prevent Mysore from joining with Napoleon. But now what can we say of the British East India Company? Its stock price is in ruins after the massive waste of good farming land on ruinous opium production for a closed market in China. The company leaders openly steal the best military officers and bureaucrats from our country to help suppress the anglicized nobles of Hindustan. And the company flagrantly flouts international law by smuggling opium into China. The company is not British in any sense, not in character, not in conduct, and not in interest. Some of my fellow ministers believe that we should support the company, help them defeat the Sikh Empire, and restore control over the fertile lands of Mysore and Bengal. This would be such a waste. The Sikh Maharaja is a wise ruler. He speaks English, funds factories and universities, and his rule has been more prosperous for the provinces of Mysore and Bengal than the many famines of company rule. The Sikhs have good relations with China and Iran and could act as a strong counterweight against the Russian bear. I propose we begin steps to end the embargo of the Sikh Empire, a foolish protectionist measure enacted only due to company bribes, and make it the government's priority to reimburse the many British East India Company stockholders by giving them trade contracts and land rights in India, which will be governed directly by the Crown. We must reopen the jewel of the Empire to Her Majesty, through diplomat, through gunboat, and if need, through rifle. Charles Canning, 1st Earl Canning, Minister of Parliament, November 8, 1864, as transcribed by the official stenographer, D. Cat. Hey everybody, it's PartyElite. Welcome back for a Sikh Empire run in Victoria 3. Today's session is going to be very action-packed as we fight wars on 3 fronts, not just literally speaking, but also metaphorically speaking. There is a lot to get done today, so let's not waste any time. Let's dive right on into it. Last session, close to the tail end, you perhaps will recall that we managed to pass multiculturalism, and that's been absolutely fantastic because it means people of all cultures are now accepted. However, we still have to concern ourselves with differences in faith, and that's the next step and the first war we'll be waging. Because we managed to pass multiculturalism, the intelligentsia are now fans of the government, and that means we can actually enact total separation if we bring them into the government. So, over to the Reformation screen over here, and welcome one and all of the intelligentsia to the government. Yes, it hurts our legitimacy ever so slightly. I try to understate the actual issue, but we're not going to do something like remove the rural folk in order to get it back up, because that increases radicalization, and it also hurts the number of loyalists that we've so painstakingly put together. So the rural folk get to stay. Yes, it will slow down our progress a little bit, but I think that's okay for the time being. And I can't get rid of the armed forces because the Maharaja himself is a member of the armed forces. So while I mechanically and technically speaking can get rid of them, it just feels a little strange for the Maharaja to be like, hey, armed forces, get out of here, even though I'm one of you. So we're going to keep the armed forces in place. We're going to keep the rural folk in place. We'll introduce the intelligentsia, confirm that reformation of the government, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the total separation of church and state. Yes, it will further upset the Sikh priesthood, but they're already at -20. This will just take them to -40 as far as their approval is concerned. And the fact of the matter is, the Sikh priesthood is relatively weak as far as their clout is concerned. If we can get this number to be below 5%, they'll become marginalized, and once they're marginalized, none of these traits will actually ever become active, regardless of what their approval is. So pious fiction is hurting education access right now, but if we just manage to get their clout reduced by enough, it'll be gone and we don't have to worry about it. And even when it is active, it's not really the end of the world, I suppose. So we'll work around it, and hopefully with total separation passed, we'll see the end to discrimination. And just as a reminder, discrimination has been a constant thorn in our backside, constantly adding to the radical count, and I'm looking very much forward to getting rid of that. But not just that, discrimination also causes additional issues for the actual discriminated pops. Just as a reminder, if a pop is discriminated against, they're not able to participate as a member of an interest group, so all their political strength is wasted. But beyond that as well, they get paid lesser wages, and on top of that, their social mobility is reduced, so they can't go from, let's say, peasant to laborer to shopkeeper to whatever it might be. So getting rid of discrimination is going to be extremely helpful, and I'm very excited to win the war on that front as, again, one of 3. The other metaphorical front that we'll be fighting our war on is the hoarding of wealth by the investment pool. Of course, that hoarding is a result of my own doing, or my own not doing, I suppose. Inaction has resulted in £1.32 million to be accumulated in the investment pool. There are a couple of things that I need to consider as far as people's needs, and if we take a look at all the costs over here, there are some things that are fairly middlingly consumed, I suppose we can say, that can be tackled by our agrarian policies. That's the important thing to consider. It's not like our investment pool can be used to tackle the luxury furniture issue, right? That money has to come from the government. But our investment pool can be used to tackle, say, the tea issue or the coffee issue. Now, yes, those aren't the largest percentages of expenditures across the board, but hey, in some cases, for example, with the lower strata of society, if we can get enough opium flowing, then these guys will be happier. And also, opium is needed by our military-industrial complex as well, right? Because now we have first aid. So that's just an example of some of the decision-making you're about to see over here as we head on over to North Bengal and get our opium plantations going over here by, let's say, 4 steps. And then down over here at Mysore once more, we'll go ahead and get more of these coffee plantations going, also by 4 steps. We just need to be careful because, of course, if we end up draining the investment pool completely, some of that cost will end up on our plates as well. We just want to be very careful not to overdo it, right? We've queued a lot of stuff up, so we just don't have to keep ourselves busy with that while we're distracted, let's say, with the war at hand. And with that said, why don't we go ahead and talk about the war at hand? The East India Company is going to be the target of this fresh war, and I'm looking to take hold of a bunch of territory, particularly in South India, and perhaps we'll have them transfer some of their puppets as well. Now, this time we're actually going to declare war directly against the East India Company itself, bringing in all of their puppets as opposed to what we've been doing previously. And if you're wondering why I'm going to change things up, why fix what isn't broken, well, the answer is simple. If we simply go to war with one of their puppets, let's say Kuch over here, only the East India Company will get involved. As before, Awadh might join the enemy, but those numbers aren't big enough to ensure the East India Company stays through the entire diplomatic play. The last thing I want here is for the East India Company to back down, because then I will only get my primary war goal and we'll get a 5-year truce. That's not ideal. That's nowhere near ideal. And so we have to take a bit of a risk over here and go to war with the entirety of the EIC and their puppets just to ensure that everybody stays involved and we can win the war as opposed to get a deathless peace that gains us very little. Now, with regards to what we're targeting, you can see Madras and Bombay are the ideal spots to hit if we want to try and dismantle the naval force that the EIC has constantly used to harass all of our supply chains. So, as you might be able to tell where I'm going with this sentence, Madras and Bombay will be the primary targets of this war, and beyond that as well, I'll have to consider what is the most prominent spot that we can take to start cleaning up some of this border gore. I mean, Baroda can be transferred over as a puppet, I suppose. We can keep these guys because they do like us quite a bit, so that doesn't hurt. Alternatively, we can try and make a move towards Andhra over here as well, because Madras is down here, Andhra, and then East India Company Orissa will allow us to connect with South Bengal, and if we're actually able to connect all of these states over here under our own market, we'll be able to landlock the vast majority of the East India Company and isolate just a small piece down over here that stays connected to all of the sea routes. You'll notice up over here as we take a look at Assam, which was, again, disconnected from the rest of the market a while ago now, you'll notice their population has dropped significantly, and even though their population is still growing, they're just not able to get the same amount of growth because of immigration and things like that, and at the same time, their standard of living has dropped tremendously as well. So if we can recreate some of those opportunities with the vast majority of the EIC's lands in central India, we might get just another advantage in the next war when we have to declare it. So that's all the talking done. Now it's time for action. Just as a reminder, our infamy right now is completely zeroed out, which gives us some free reign with regards to how far we wish to push. First order of business is going to be to conquer the state of Bombay. Yes, take on literally all of their puppets over here, but also you'll notice down over here, Russia, France, Portugal, and Siam might all get involved. Not very concerned about Siam. I would welcome Portugal to join the other side of this war, in fact, because then maybe we can go ahead and take Goa from them a little earlier than I was initially anticipating. But beyond that, I'd be a little concerned about France joining in, and Russia joining in as well would be a little scary because they'll bring in the numbers, but don't forget we have the superior technology, and that is going to make such a big difference in this diplomatic play and the subsequent war that's going to kick off. Let's go ahead and make sure that we don't make the same mistake we made last time and get military wages zeroed so we're not suffering from reduced training rates. And let's also make sure that the armed forces over here are too far away from patriotic fervor for it to be worthwhile getting their wages maxed out. Again, this would take them to +5, which totals up to +6. We're 4 short of patriotic fervor and those buffs that I so desperately would love to have. But it's okay. I'm sure we'll be fine despite that because, again, yes, don't forget, our military technology is far beyond any of our enemies outside of Sikh Rajputana, I suppose. I didn't notice the downgrade there, perhaps. But we'll be okay. We'll be okay. Our conscription centers as well are, getting their upgrades as well. I perhaps made a bit of a mistake getting the equipment adjustment going, but hey, truth be told, it's almost gone. And by the time this diplomatic play escalates into a full war, the equipment adjustment penalty will be completely gone. So perfect timing, in fact, I would say. We're not going to get them running just quite yet. We're not going to get our military units mobilized until things have pushed forward a little bit because, again, I do not want to scare the East India Company into surrendering. If they manage to sway some nations to their side and they start to get cocky, then maybe we'll start mobilizing. But until that point in time, or until later in the diplomatic play, we're not going to mobilize, which is a bit of a risk, but I think a worthwhile one and the correct strategic move. As we see over here, France might actually be willing to join us. Oh, now that is interesting. I do not think we can do that as much as I would love to, because the moment those 316 battalions and 133 fleets become available to us, the EIC is going to become very nervous, and I assure you, they're going to just back down and only give us our primary war goal. Now, our primary war goal is a juicy one. I should have quite possibly targeted Madras instead, but I'll be fine with this. I think this will be perfectly okay, and I'm sure we can balance our pressure just fine to keep the EIC involved as they try to force us to open the Sikh market. Again, I'm sure they're very envious of all the goods that they'd grown so accustomed to, and just not having access to those goods at the old rates they were used to is probably applying a lot of pressure internally. I'm very excited to see just how much turmoil they actually have across the board and how that's going to affect the opening acts as far as war support is concerned. We're going to take a similar strategy to what we've taken before, and that is to say we're going to stay put. We're going to keep all of our battalions in place. The North India HQ will actually cover a lot of our bases across the front over here, and we'll also get South and North Bengal protected by the troops in the North India HQ. But the Himalayas HQ and Persia HQ will be made to move down to South India, I think, and push forth from Mysore, because I highly doubt the East India Company is expecting that flanking maneuver. We do also have 11 battalions at the South India HQ as well. I don't know if we'll actually mobilize those guys or if we'll allow them to stay behind as defenders like we are doing with North India as well. That's certainly how we're going to start the war, but we'll see how the situation develops and make adjustments accordingly as this diplomatic play is about to enter its second phase. So it looks as though the East India Company has grown confident as far as this war is concerned, and I think that's largely because they've actually mobilized all of their troops and their navy as well, whereas we haven't, and so they just feel as though they can take us on, and hey, let's let them keep that feeling until we begin to conscript troops, which will be in just a moment's time. Oh, now they've grown cocky. Basically, immediately after me assessing the situation with their confidence, they managed to sway Russia over to their side. They're just going to owe them an obligation, and that's going to keep Russia on their side. Perhaps that's enough to get me to get France on our side? No, because they have the truce with the East India Company when they fought at Pondicherry last session. My goodness, that is very unfortunate. Either way, that does mean that we should start mobilizing some of our troops, or perhaps at least activating our conscription centers. Let's go ahead and get the numerous conscripts of Delhi, North Bengal, and Punjab all involved, and I suppose the conscripts at Mysore can help us keep the southern territories safe as well, while we wait to mobilize our actual units and get them into place and advancing. Again, we have got our budget in the middle over here, which means we should see decent training rates. Now, Russia has gone so far as to declare a rivalry with us, and that's interesting. Like I said, we do border them as far as our market is concerned, and we are actually relying on them on quite a few imports, such as, artillery and small arms. I just wonder how that's going to impact our ability to supply our army with said goods, and I just wonder if we shouldn't invest in some more upgrades over here. Again, we do have a fair bit of money in the bank. 3.37 million in gold reserves is not bad, and to actually win this war, all we have to do is get aggressive down from Mysore, which I think we'll be able to do relatively easily. Let's go ahead and double up on these guys and take a look at our queue over here. You know what? Right after the glassworks are done, I think we'll go ahead and get the arms industries done. So let's switch this up a little bit, and hopefully that will kick in time when this war actually kicks off in full swing, basically. It's hurting our economy a lot right now, but again, we got those gold reserves, let's use them, right? Alright, I think now is about time for us to mobilize some of our actual armies, so let's go ahead and get our renowned Jassa Singh Dogra and Alexander Gardner both mobilized, allow them to reach sort of full mobilization, and then we'll go ahead and send them, down to South India to push forth from there. Our primary war goal is down here, and our secondary and tertiary war goals will be down there as well, I believe, as we push for the conquest of Bombay, as per original decision-making, as well as Madras, as we discussed previously, and the transfer of Baroda. That will make Baroda our subject. It was a bit cheaper as far as infamy cost was concerned, and it should allow us to, yes, complete this sort of conquest of this tract of land over here and actually connect everything, allowing us to, well, not cut anything off, unfortunately, because we're not able to secure Andhra or East India Company Orissa in this war, but this just means that it'll take one more war for us to do that, with just the conquest of 2 more states. In other words, it's a war that we'll be able to declare sooner and get the benefits of sooner as well. At the same time, you'll notice that with all of our new war goals, France is no longer interested in joining us. Again, we wouldn't have been able to sway them anyway because of that truce, but it's good to know that with all these additional war goals, France looks at us a bit less favorably than they did just moments ago, so just something to consider moving forward. Apart from all the territorial conquests, we are also going to look for war reparations from the East India Company and from Russia, and ideally we'll be able to open the Russian market too, allowing us to actually get goods from them without all those extra tariffs that we have to pay their people. Ideally, we can rely a bit more on Russia and its vast market and, take advantage of this glorious victory we're about to see. Now, with that said, the EIC is still very cocky, but I do think it has to do with the number of troops mobilized as we move further and further towards the countdown to war and the actual declaration of it as well. Now, as we approach the countdown to war, we have enough maneuvers to add just one more war goal, and I think we're going to go ahead and get some war reparations from Hyderabad, because Hyderabad's GDP is the highest of all the puppet states that are listed here, so I think we have the most to gain. It's not going to be a lot. Again, 10% of their tax income is probably hardly anything, but hey, we got those maneuvers to use, so we might as well use them for war reparations because we can't use them for anything else. It'll also buy us just a few more days to mobilize a few more of our troops and get some more of our conscripts up and running as well. Things are looking pretty good. I'm not too fussed about all these negative numbers we're seeing across the board because, again, we do have technological superiority over all of the puppets as well as the EIC itself. If we take a look at their barracks over here, you'll see that not only are they using old methods of warfare such as line infantry and mobile artillery, they're also having a hard time keeping their goods in place, so this should give us a huge advantage. I'm a little concerned again about Russian involvement, but again, their technology is a little behind as well, and apart from that, I think we're just going to be able to blitz through the subcontinent and take everything we would like to take, while the arms industries over here are going to be done in about 20 weeks' time, keeping hopefully our costs down as well, because for the time being, as you can see, we're dealing with a bit of wobbling price tags, and we're dealing with a pretty massive deficit that we're operating at. But hey, we've got the runway, and hopefully that runway is enough for takeoff, because otherwise we'll be in a bit of trouble. I don't mind a touch of debt, because we're going to be making so much money after this war that I'm sure we'll recover in no time. I do want to address one more thing with regards to our wartime strategies, and that has to do with naval bases. Many of you have been asking why I haven't been building a stronger navy to contend with the East India Company's navy and to keep all of our shipping lanes active throughout war, because that's been hurting so much every time the radicalization of our nation skyrockets because of the lack of access to goods, and you're very much right on that front. So I just want to explain really quickly the reason why I haven't been trying to compete with 48 flotillas while we have about 12 and fewer after prior wars and before prior wars even. The reason for that is because while we can very quickly and easily build naval bases of higher levels, actually filling those spaces up with employees is quite challenging and time-consuming, and I just wasn't sure if we could actually get a competitive number of flotillas while also progressing the rest of our industries. I felt it was much more important, as this war with the East India Company breaks out, to invest in our arms industries and invest in our munitions plants and just the needs of the people to get the radicalization lower and lower in peacetime, so that we always have a baseline we can try and return to regardless of how wars actually play out. Was it the ideal decision? I think so. If I didn't think so, I wouldn't have made that decision, because I just think there was no way we could compete with the flotilla count of the East India Company, starting with just the 12 that we were starting with. Now, stripping Madras and Bombay away from the EIC will then put us at a more competitive position, and at that point in time we can start pushing naval supremacy in the region and preventing the EIC from harassing us constantly. Now, with all that discussed, let's go ahead and take a look at how this war plays out. Again, just keeping all of our troops in place for the time being, though at Persia HQ we will go ahead and send these guys down, led by Alexander Gardner, to advance the front at Mysore, and the same goes for, of course, Jassa Singh Dogra, the hero of our previous war, I would say, who should be able to use his expert offensive planning to give us some huge advantages, again coming in from the south. So the plan is to have the Maharaja be the anvil, if you will, protecting North and South Bengal and the borders of Delhi, Punjab, Sikh Rajputana, and Sindh alike, while the hammer comes from the south, crushing the East India Company, hopefully tremendously effectively, as we start to see some of the initial advances by the EIC and their puppets across the board. Looks like the Bengali front is relatively quiet. There is a bit of movement over here, actually. I spoke a little bit too soon, I suppose, or perhaps spoke a little blindly, while down south over here, we have the first battle of this war, perhaps fittingly in South India, and look at that. Look at the difference in defense versus offense over here. Of course, we get the advantage of being the defender as well, but the sheer number of troops we are just completely slaughtering, and the difference in soldiers as well, the count of soldiers is absolutely huge, so this shouldn't be a problem. Easy victory down south over there, as another battle kicks off up north over here in South Bengal, and this one looks like a handy victory as well. Again, the EIC and its puppets, I think, have just moved a little too early, a little too fast, and they're just a little too outnumbered, as across the board we are winning, I think, all of our battles. Ooh, I spoke of maybe a little bit too soon there. These numbers are a bit closer, and over here, what do we have? Yeah, looks like we're a bit outnumbered over here, but perhaps our recovery rate will allow us to turn things around, and up over here, we're actually facing off against Russia, but defeating them too. No general in charge, but despite the lack of a general at the front itself, we are seeing a glorious victory over here. Just look at the number of Russian troops drop so quickly. They decided to step in, and they're going to pay for it. Absolutely loving how that's playing out. Meanwhile, over here, we have another battle kicking off. Oh, this might be our first defeat. A little unfortunate, this one. The enemy just got lucky at the Pashtunistan Rajputana front, but that's okay. We'll push them back quickly enough. While down south over here, I hope to see our own aggression start to pay dividends very, very soon, as Alexander Gardner has arrived and is now advancing the front as well. Not gonna lie, defeating Russia this handily makes me very happy. I was a little nervous when they decided to get involved, but this definitely brings me some solace. Granted, we did outnumber them at the beginning of the war and all that good stuff, or at the beginning of the battle, I should say, but I'll still take the win. A win is a win, and if we didn't have our recovery rates and our higher kill rates and all that good stuff, we would be in a much rougher spot after this battle, but we've actually managed to hold our own very well against Russia. Feeling very pleased about that. And if we actually take a look at war support, it does look like turmoil is causing a bit of an issue for the East India Company. 20% of their population is radicalized, and that's actually hitting them pretty hard. Overall, that's a negative 0.67 due to exhaustion, whereas we are seeing a negative 0.74. Again, we do still have a very radical population. We have quite a few issues as well, and it seems as though the enemy has made some progress in occupying some of our territory. We'll turn that around quickly enough, I'm sure, because, of course, the enemy has to actually occupy Mysore to get us below zero, if that's what they're trying to do. Meanwhile, all we have to do is nothing else, because I just noticed we won our first advancing move down over here, with Bombay now being at least partly occupied, thanks to, I assume, the moves made by Alexander Gardner and his advance. Now, we do have multiple fronts over here now, so why don't we get Jassa Singh Dogra advancing over here instead, and that way we're able to push up both sides and just cause a bit more pressure and hopefully split the enemy's troops a bit more. In the middle over here, unfortunately, you're going to see us a little outnumbered against the people of Hyderabad. Hopefully we're able to hold our own with the 6 battalions we have there. You know, don't know if I like my chances there. Not sure if maybe Jassa Singh Dogra should be sent to advance this front instead then. It'll just take him how many days to get there? 2 days to get there. That'll be before the enemy's advance actually triggers, and we should be able to cut them off before they make any clever moves. And again, we do not want them to occupy Mysore, because if they take even a part of it, just like we took a part of Bombay over here, if they take even a part of Mysore, our war support can start going down below zero. And while that is a long way away, obviously, I don't want to stop paying attention and all of a sudden find myself on the back foot. in a war that we should win handily as a few more battles kick off over here. We've got these guys outnumbered over here ever so slightly. I think we'll be able to stay on top of this battle over here, so that's good to see. We'll set this aside for a moment because I just want to investigate this other battle where we are significantly outnumbered. This might be a loss over here. Looks like it's leaning that way, even though our stats are significantly higher than the defensive stats of the EIC. Let's just see how this plays out, but let's also acknowledge the fact that improved fertilizer has been unlocked. That's something we can get going across the board for all of our farms. I don't think there's a rush for that just quite yet, though the increased employment is nice to see, and the increased use of fertilizer might be helpful in bringing its price up a bit so that it becomes a bit more valuable to, you know, actually produce, and we stop seeing issues with regards to our chemical plants. All right, fair enough. With that investigated, let's go ahead and take a look at our buildings. Let's take a look at the rural department. Let's go ahead and get our wheat farms over here using fertilizer. Yes, that's a huge increase in grain output, and it's also going to change employment. It's going to hurt laborers a bit, actually. I don't like that, because we're going from soil enriching farming to fertilizers. It will reduce the number of laborers we have, but give more employment to farmers. That's a bit of hurt I'm going to have to be willing to take just to consume a little bit of fertilizer. We're only going to do it at our wheat farms and leave the rest as they are, because it looks like that adjustment will be enough to bring the price of fertilizer up, as was predicted by the change when we were looking at that. Well, we'll keep an eye out for it, of course, but for the time being, I think that makes sense. And let's go ahead and see if this move here by the wonderful Alexander Gardner made sense as well. Oh my goodness, look at this. Nagpur, Mewar, Travancore, Bundelkhand, Bhopal, Bastar, they've all begun mobilization, so we're about to start facing off against significantly larger numbers. This battle looks like it might be a lost cause. We're managing to kind of hold the line. You can see we're slowly dipping. The EIC's numbers are dropping faster than ours, but I just don't know if it's by enough. Definitely keeping an eye on this battle, though, because I would love to win this one, because it would just show the effectiveness of having more advanced technology on the battlefield and how that's reflected in-game. I mean, we're doing a lot of damage. I just don't think it's going to be enough compared to the numbers we have on our side, and it would be unfortunate, but still, we're causing a ton of damage, which will impact their future battles, obviously. Oh man, we're just barely holding on over here. You know what? This is going to be a lost cause, unfortunately. Hey, we tried our best. It's okay. You can't win them all, right? We're going to try to keep pushing. Fortunately, they didn't take all of Bombay away from us or anything, so we still have the advantage of the occupation that we've got down over here. Meanwhile, across the front up north, it looks like the lines are secure. We haven't suffered any loss of territory, and what we did suffer, I think, has quickly been taken back. And on the topic of these accomplishments, I suppose we should recognize some other accomplishments over here in Balochistan, where the investment in the raw goods industry in Balochistan has resulted in a positive balance for the lead mines. Interest groups are, of course, quick to try to claim credit for this investment. We could give that credit to the industrialists, or we could perhaps recognize the workers, as we've done time and time again. Let's just take a look at the industrialists and see how close they are to tax avoidance. Not very so. The workers should be recognized. Absolutely. Let's try and grow those trade unions and use them in tandem with the intelligentsia to get some of those moves that we want to make made, right? But feeling very good about the war as it stands right now. Again, we've made progress. The enemy had made some progress, but we very quickly pushed them back, and I almost wonder if we shouldn't get the Maharaja making some advances as well. Again, I would rather not devastate these territories that I'm about to take over. I would rather minimize the amount of damage done to the nation and to its people, right? And it just occurred to me, actually, we're not building anything right now. What is this nonsense? How's our investment pool looking? Fat with cash. Absolutely fat with cash. All right, over we go to South Bengal, where the dye plantations, I think, can be expanded a little bit because we are able to use this dye for a variety of stuff now, so let's keep that going. And let's also go ahead to North Bengal once more and get these guys pushing the opium plantations a bit further as well, because, again, opium is needed across the board. I'm sure the price is up a little bit from before the war kicked off. Let's try and keep it down, and let's also try and hit that #1 producer worldwide position, right? We're not taking Bihar in this war, so I doubt we're going to hit that anytime soon, but hey, let's try and do some work internally as well. Meanwhile, you'll notice over here, noble privileges has been activated by the landowners, which is quite unfortunate. We continue to push their clout lower and lower, but of course, as we win this war, we're going to see that clout skyrocket, as a vast majority of the populations of the states that we're conquering, I'm sure, are landowners. So gonna have some struggle over here moving forward as far as our economy is concerned. We'll see what we can do about that. Maybe pass a law or begin the conversation about passing a law that the landowners would like to just get rid of this slight negativity over here. But that's a conversation for later. We're still looking okay as far as our gold reserves are concerned. Yes, Debt is almost certainly coming, but nothing that we can't handle, I don't think. We continue to push deeper and deeper into East India Company territory from the south, but I'm a little concerned about these advances over here by the wonderful Alexander Gardner. He's suffered, I think now, 2 losses in a row, so I just wonder if I should flip him to defending the front instead, just to make sure we don't actually lose control of Bombay. So why don't we, yes, go ahead and get you to defend the front instead, buddy, and that way we should be able to hold the line over here and prevent any significant losses that would then prevent their war support from dropping below 0. That's an extremely important sort of milestone we want to keep on our side, so I want to make sure that we don't, ignore that possibility down south over here. And the Hyderabadi front has split into 3 fronts now. This is always a hot mess. I don't like how the game handles the splitting of fronts. It looks like we are okay as far as numbers are concerned across the board over here, so we can keep things as they are. But sometimes you'll find yourself distributed poorly, and all of a sudden you've, lost all your progress because you looked away for a split second. Now, the Maharaja, meanwhile, is looking away from the wars to take a look at the political process over here. The debate regarding total separation has involved the Maharaja, and the Maharaja is, of course, supporting the total separation of church and state. Or I suppose I should say faith and state, or religion and state. Let's go for it. It's going to upset the intelligentsia a little bit, which is kind of ironic because they're actually in support of this political movement. Let's make sure it's not going to upset them so much that they'll leave the government. No, we're very far away from that possibly happening. So very well, the Maharajas will be done. Absolutely. It'll increase the chance of enacting total separation significantly, and I would really like to see that get done in the next cycle if possible. We missed this one, but hopefully the next one we'll see it get done, and we can start paying attention to the rather failing education system in our empire right now. Only 27.6% literacy is rather terrible. So I do want to improve that as we move forward for sure. It's also interesting to see that the radicalization hasn't skyrocketed as much as I would have expected from all of our convoys being sunk. You can see our convoys are being sunk. We are taking some damage, but I wonder if we just have too many convoys for them to be closed off as quickly as they previously perhaps used to be. That might be the case over here. We're also seemingly less reliant on foreign goods as I'd previously thought. Wow, all right. Well, that's promising. I'm very pleased with that, actually. Like, radicalization is being kept in check despite the wartime situation, which is very, very promising for the future ahead. The future ahead, as opposed to the future behind. What a weird statement. My goodness, folks. Battles across this war are absolutely ridiculous in troop count, in the amount of damage we're delivering. It's been looking fantastic. I don't see any Russian troops anywhere. Where did all our Russian friends end up? I don't think they stayed involved for too long. If we take a look at the war support situation, why don't we investigate the Make Peace screen over here just to see the amount of damage we've done to Russia. 19.4k dead, 11k in battle, only 8k due to attrition. I think they've pulled back, truth be told, and their war support is dwindling as well, so this is very promising. As up over here, it seems as though another diplomatic play has kicked off. What do we got going on over here? The Sulu aristocratic revolt, fair enough, and it could involve quite a few people, including the Great Qing, which is why they suddenly turned blue. Threw me off, got me very nervous that they were getting involved somehow with our diplomatic play down over here, but no, that's elsewhere, and it doesn't really involve us, even though we could get involved if we wanted to. We don't. We're way too busy up over here, but celebrating the fact that the Russians came to India and decided, you know what, nah, this isn't for us, this isn't worth it, and I think they left. Or they only have a handful of troops left down in the subcontinent, because these numbers tell a story, and the story they tell is of Russia stabbing the EIC in the back. Folks, I can't believe it. This might actually be one of our fastest and smoothest wars to date. I really wish I hadn't got all the conscription centers activated like I did, because we could have saved a lot of money. I'm glad I did not mobilize the Maharaja, but I have some regrets with regards to our distribution of funding as far as this war is concerned. How could we have predicted, though, right? How could we have predicted that the Russians would back down so quickly? Not mechanically speaking, they didn't mechanically back down, but they certainly don't seem to be present across the fronts of this war, so gonna take that as a definite win. They continue to not see any additional dead. I think they're all on standby over here, so that's wonderful stuff. But yeah, we're gonna have to bounce back from the deficit we're definitely going to accrue over here. But like I said previously, I'm not too concerned about that. We're going to be making so much money after this war, we'll be just fine. And on the topic of money, let's go ahead and spend some from our investment pool that continues to grow thicker and thicker, and see if we can't further push the opium plantations over here, and maybe get some more coffee going down in Mysore as well. Not sure why the cash reserves are dropping so much. I assume that's because some of our export routes are perhaps being closed down, and so these things are not worth as much as they once were. But hopefully we'll stay #1 producer down over here with regards to coffee, and hopefully this number will switch around soon enough to bring those cash reserves back up to being maxed out. Meanwhile, as the war progresses, we'll see the EIC is now facing negative war support, and at negative approximately 3 per week. This war doesn't have long left, as the labor movement is now unlocked as well. So this one's interesting because it increases the minimum expected standard of living through literacy, and that's going to cause us trouble as we actually get the total separation situation going, and as we get schools activated as well. So this could be a little problematic as we move further and further. It also unlocks a few options as far as laws are concerned, so I suspect we're going to start seeing additional political movements on those fronts. And separate from that as well, the unlocking of the labor movement actually increases how attractive the trade unions interest groups actually are. I shouldn't say it increases how attractive they are. It gets rid of one of the negatives as far as the attraction modifiers are concerned. So this should be interesting as we see the clout over here continue to grow. We've done a pretty good job of allowing the trade unions to grow stronger and stronger. And again, like I said previously, they'll work in tandem with the intelligentsia, who also continue to grow stronger over time by and large, to make us a very different society from the one that we started as, that's for sure. But good stuff. The labor movement has been unlocked. We just have to be wary about wastage with regards to bureaucracy, and I'll have to invest a bit more in government administration buildings perhaps to make sure we have enough bureaucracy to actually enable the schools and all that good stuff when the time comes, because again, institutions have a cost as far as bureaucracy is concerned, and I can assure you we do not have enough, especially considering we're in the negatives right now. Oh, this is perfect. Nationalism has begun spreading, which is again one of the stepping stones towards pan-nationalism, which is again one of our prerequisites for actually forming the nation of India. Again, we need 17 of these 23 state regions, and then we'll be able to get pan-nationalism in place as well to, form India. Now, I'm not sure if I want to form India before we try to subjugate Great Britain, or if we try to subjugate Great Britain as the Sikh Empire and then form India afterwards. I have no preference, I think, with regards to order of operation, and I don't know if the achievement has any preferences either, but we'll see how it plays out as we move forward through this campaign and make a decision accordingly, of course. And wow, almost immediately we have a political movement to enact restricted child labor. I am not surprised, but I'm also not surprised that support and radicalism are both low, because again, the clout over here is minimal. These guys aren't able to push their weight around all that much, and while I don't mind eventually restricting child labor, we're not in a place where we can actually do that, not quite yet. So we're going to hold off on that. We're going to let them complain for a little while and hope that the radicalism doesn't get too high. If it does, if there is a revolution attempt, we'll have to shut it down, because the nation is just not ready for such a massive change. Oh, looks like we're actually about to lose a battle over here that might give Bombay back to the EIC, and that might be a bit of a problem. I'm glad I noticed that, but with that loss, have we lost Bombay? Let's take a quick look over here. No. All right, good. We still hold on to it well enough. Alexander Gardner having a bit of a tougher time lately, it seems like. He is still trying to defend this front, while Justice Singh Dogra over here is making some advances. What are we looking at over here? We are significantly outnumbered. We should not be doing this. We should be sending Justice Singh Dogra elsewhere. So after this battle is done, we'll go ahead and flip him around and perhaps push up this way through Hyderabad. We are still able to hold Hyderabad, and my goodness, look at that battle. Wow. All right, it is what it is. We should definitely be very careful about pointlessly losing troops up front over here. Again, the reserves in South India are able to provide support across these fronts, much like the reserves in North India HQ are doing the same across the board in North India. So we should make sure that our generals are appointed or positioned appropriately to avoid such waste of time and lives, really. Meanwhile, it does look as though we are suffering from a great deal of attrition under Alexander Gardner, which is a little problematic. I wonder if I should send him to stand by. The war is almost done. We're at negative 50 war support from the EIC right now, so that might be an option. We'll keep him here for the time being. We'll just keep an eye out for the attrition situation as this battle comes to an end soon, hopefully. I swear that ending section always takes forever. It's like, come on, just finish it off. Just take us down. I would rather move these guys elsewhere than keep them over here pointlessly firing away at the vastly numerous EIC soldiers. There it is. Let's go ahead and get Justice Singh Dogra over here, advancing this other front, and hopefully actually making some moves. The reason why I'm still advancing is because the more of their territory we can occupy, the faster their war support will dwindle, and the sooner we can actually end this war. And as you can see, we are deep in debt right now, close to about $1 million in credit in just a couple weeks' time, and that's not ideal, obviously. We can obviously outdo this interest in no time, and I'm not too concerned, but I would rather not be in debt for, I think, obvious reasons. All right, good stuff. This push over here by Justice Singh Dogra is looking pretty good. We're going to defeat these Hyderabadi troops and throw them back to occupy a bit more of enemy territory. While it does look like, yes, Bombay is still occupied, and we're still looking very good as far as our push down south over here is concerned. This war has gone wonderfully. Again, I think it's actually one of our shortest wars. I don't recall exactly which date it started, and I don't think it's listed here, actually, which is unfortunate. I do wish it was listed on this screen somewhere. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, but if you see it, let me know. Obviously, we can always rewind the episode and take a look, but I can't do that right now while recording. I do think it's one of our shortest wars and one of our quickest wars in terms of how quickly we gain the advantage and put the EIC on the back foot. I absolutely love the betrayal from Russia over here. I think their numbers are probably still where they were when we last looked. Yeah, they just left. They just left. Amazing. Now, their war support's not going to drop below 0 unless we send a naval invasion of our own. I'm not sure what I can convince them to do with a war support of just 0, but we'll take a look. We'll certainly take a look. Their war support is, of course, irrelevant compared to the EIC's war support, because all we need is that to hit -100 to actually win the primary war goals, or I shouldn't say primary war goals, but all of our war goals directed at the EIC will be taken once this hits -100. That's all we really need. The opening of the Russian market, all that's just icing on the cake, so to speak. And there you have it, folks. This war is done. Total capitulation from the East India Company and a huge growth in the territorial holdings of the Sikh Empire. This is looking fantastic. Of course, there are going to be some issues with radicalization over here, skyrocketing by 12.68 million. Are you kidding me? Wow. Of course, a vast majority of that is from the conquests that we just managed to pull off over here. That's going to need a lot of work. Bringing those numbers down is going to take some time. We need to make sure market access is looking good. We need to make sure these guys have enough infrastructure to actually get the goods that they want. And it looks like we've done a decent job of keeping devastation down. And it looks like market access is actually all right, except for down over here in Madras, but easily fixed, I think. Easily enough. That's promising. We'll want to try incorporating some of these states as well so we can start taxing them and making some money off of them too. But the primary concern right now does remain this war with Russia, and if we actually want to invest in it, again, with their war support at 0, we should be able to get maybe war reparations, okay, or perhaps an open market. Right. One or the other, but not both. One or the other, but not both. And I'm not sure which one makes most sense. If we take a look at our trade routes, we had quite a few trade routes with Russia. And remember, if we open up their markets, we can force them to trade with us without charging us tariffs. And that would help us allow these trade routes to grow a lot larger. And of course, that means getting more luxury furniture, getting more artillery tools, all that good stuff, right? But at the same time, those war reparations could be worth a significant sum of money. Do we need it, though? I suppose is the question. Do we need that extra money? War reparations from the East India Company is already looking pretty good, and the war reparations from Hyderabad and Baroda are pretty good as well. Well, rather, Baroda is our puppet, so they're just paying us tribute as a puppet, but Hyderabadi and East India Company war reparations add up to close to 10K. Because I don't think we should prolong this war. If we try to pull off a naval invasion against Russia, we'll be in trouble because they have a massive fleet, and despite our conquests over here, our fleet remains relatively small. When you conquer a naval base or a state with a naval base, you don't actually get that base at the same level that it was previously built at. I'm not sure what the logic is there, but hey, it is what it is. So you'll see that our naval bases in both Madras and Bombay are smaller than they were when the EIC held on to them, but it does still mean that we have a stronger navy overall. Does it overpower the East India Company's navy, though? Ooh, well, ain't that a sight. They've only got 10 flotillas, we've got 27. We almost triple their navy in strength, so if we're able to keep that difference and that gap alive for when the next war is declared, we don't have to worry about losing our convoys. That's very exciting. That is very, very exciting. But let's not get distracted by that. I gotta stay focused on this Russia situation. And folks, as much as I would absolutely love to have both Russian war reparations and the open Russian market, I just don't think it's viable to pursue both of those goals, because this war is going to take a lot out of our nation if we try to keep it going. I mean, just take a look at the number of battalions that the Russians have fully mobilized and the potential they could have mobilized as well versus the number we have mobilized and the maximum we could have mobilized too. I mean, that difference is just too huge for a technological advantage to give us the upper hand over here, and it would take us a fair bit of time to actually get all of those battalions mobilized in the first place. We also need to actually, hire an admiral and get naval invasions going, which who knows if we'll even succeed. All that takes so much time, and during all that time, we'll continue to drain our resources and our economy, and I just don't think it's worth it. I just don't think there's any value to be had here, especially because when we strike with those naval invasions, even if we strike where the Russians don't expect us to, let's say, it's so easy for them to take just a handful of their battalions and push them to the new front we would have created and just shut us down time and time again. So we'd be losing lives and money for no real gain. As much as I would absolutely love both of those war goals, I think we have to be realistic and considerate of the circumstances on hand and, of course, the lives of our people too. It's interesting as well to see, by the way, that Russia was actually pulled into a separate war. It looks like Finland was going through a revolution where France got involved, and so Russia had to step in to assist the Grand Duchy of Finland. And that's what pulled all of their troops away from the Indian subcontinent, I think. That's why they weren't able to support the East India Company, and that's wonderful to see that they, of course, prioritize their own circumstances over, circumstances in a far-off land for someone who isn't even really an ally. Either way, be that as it may, the Russians will pay for their transgressions against us in literal cold, hard cash. So Russian war reparations it is. We'll go ahead and propose this peace deal, and at the same time, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the circumstances in the subcontinent and how we can take advantage of this recently won war, as in comes the peace treaty, where we have gotten literally everything we wanted minus the open Russian market. A glorious victory with a beautiful peace treaty signed on the 16th of December, 1874, a date that will be spoken about for centuries to come, I'm sure. But take a look at that, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, how much money are we making from Russian war reparations? Wow, 24.3K per week? Are you kidding me? Okay, that was definitely the right call. That's almost 4 times as much as we're getting from the East India Company alone. This is huge, and that'll be 5 years of just wonderful money to spend on developing all of these states that we just conquered, and of course the existing states as well. My main logic here is that, sure, I could force the Russians to open their market and we could import artillery and luxury furniture and all that good stuff at a much lower rate, or instead I could just get money from them and invest in those industries in my own nation and then be a little bit more self-sustaining and self-contained, not having to rely on somebody who might go to war with me in the near future. So I do think this was the better call over here. This was the better option. And let's just make sure we use that money wisely and try to accumulate a little bit of it, at least maybe get ourselves out of debt. Though truth be told, I'm not very concerned about our current interest rate. And even if that goes higher by even a little bit, I'm not really worried about that. With that said, though, let's first use this investment pool money. I wanted to have it accumulate a bit at the tail end of the war there, because down over here at Madras especially, we're seeing an infrastructure situation, and if we can get the investment pool to build up some of the ports over here, I think we'll be fully covered. Let's go ahead and max these ports out to level 7, because not only will that gain us infrastructure and cover the infrastructure situation in Madras, but it should also get us a significant number of convoys, which will in turn allow us to trade a lot more, and as that trade volume goes up, we'll of course see more money coming in from the tariffs as well. This number has been hurt as a result of the war that we've been fighting, and of course the damage done to our trade routes in the meanwhile. But I think, again, as trade gets back up to full strength, we'll start seeing a lot more money coming in from the tariffs as well. So feeling very good about the current circumstances. Yes, I do think the 15 or so weeks it'll take to complete all these ports will eventually eat a little bit into our balance. But again, like I said, I'm not too concerned if the interest goes up by, another 2 or 3 or 4K. We'll be able to counteract that easily enough, especially considering the money we're making from all of these war reparations. With that said, though, we should be cognizant of the fact that we're able to reduce military wages ever so slightly, and if need be, we can raise our taxation level to the middle state over here. increasing our revenue by 18.7k, but for the time being, we will keep it at the low taxes just to reduce how much radicalization we see from standard of living decreases. I do think that we're going to see radicalization reduce rather quickly because as you know, these newly conquered territories gain access to all of the goods that we've worked so hard to make cheaper, I'm sure they're going to start to feel a lot better and they're going to de-radicalize and things should hopefully calm down. Feeling pretty good about the situation overall. I mean, even the loyalist count over here is feeling all right, and of course, if we take a look at our population, it's definitely bumped up significantly. We are number 2 worldwide after that war, I assume right behind the Great Qing, yes, of course, by a significant margin, but we are a large nation, and we grow, you know, at a significant rate as well, so this is all very exciting stuff. Our standard of living is a little less exciting. I'm sure having won territories that weren't being looked after has hurt our average standard of living, so we should definitely, you know, work to fix that, because you'll see, you know, North Bengal, South Bengal, all the territories that we've held on to for a fair bit of time, they're actually doing pretty all right. It's just the newly acquired territories of Bombay and Madras where things aren't so hot, and Baroda is a puppet of ours, so there's not much we can do about them. Hopefully they'll start to take care of themselves a bit better as well, but you know, eventually we'll annex them, sure, and then we'll take care of them. But for the time being, hopefully them being in our market will improve their standard of living and quality of life as well, and we'll see how this plays out. Literacy is obviously something I'm still working on fixing. Hopefully we'll get total separation soon, and then we can push towards the, you know, public schools and all that good stuff and improve literacy and improve the rate at which we're actually researching technology as well. But I'm perhaps most excited to hover over our GDP over here, which is looking pretty fantastic. 105 million, making us number 5 worldwide. That puts us just behind Austria by 1 million, which isn't a very big gap to cover at all. And in terms of great power status, I believe that takes us to, rank 5. We're just behind Russia by, less than 200 prestige. After that, the gap to Austria is not that wide, actually, but then the gap to Great Britain is a fair sight bigger. We're not that far away from being in like the top 3 great powers. That's very exciting stuff. And if we just take a quick peek at the East India Company and how they're doing, we can obviously enjoy the fact that their GDP is dropping. You know what, actually? I don't think our latest war has been registered yet. Okay, hang on a second. Let's go ahead and let time move forward. Let's let this Sunday flip over. So we enter the 19th of December. And at that point in time, oh no, you know what? It's pretty stable. That's surprising. I was expecting a much bigger drop to their GDP, but hey, it's looking okay. Well, color me surprised. Either way, I'm glad to see their flotilla count has reduced significantly, and of course their population has dropped significantly as well. They are now number 5 worldwide. Of course, the most populous, or the second most populous part of the world is slowly being taken away from them, so naturally they're going to see their population drop and their rank on that front drop as well. I was really expecting a bigger drop in their GDP, but hey, it's fine. It's fine. I'm sure. Oh, there it is. Why did it take so long? Boom, down to number 10 worldwide. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Took you long enough. Either way, this feels really good. It just feels nice to dismantle the EIC in this way, and I'm sure they're going to try and get their flotilla count higher. But we need to just make sure we keep an eye on it, and even though we outnumber their flotilla count right now, we want to keep that gap alive, as I was saying previously, right? So just got to keep an eye on it and make sure that they don't manage to outnumber us or overpower us for the next war, because I would very much like it if we could shut down them shutting down our trade routes, right? Otherwise, I would very much like to see these ports get completed. As you can see now, they are taking money from our coffers. The investment pool is just about to run out, and though the investment pool will continue to provide some money to offset the immense construction cost over here, most of that money is going to be coming from the government, and again, we have enough of a runway over here. I'm not too concerned. We'll be just fine. And on top of that, again, just as a reminder, the tariffs over here are going to continue to go higher and higher as we get our trade routes growing in size too. We're already at 26.7, which is a solid number, and I'm sure we'll see that go well past 30k after these ports get upgraded. At the same time, it looks as though we're having a bit of a secession situation over here. The Tamil people of South India are not too pleased about us taking over Madras. Hopefully, they'll just back down after instigating this attempt at a secession, and we won't have any more violence. I would very much like to avoid it if possible. We'll take a look at that shortly. First of all, the Steam Donkey has been unlocked, and I don't think I'll be investing in this just quite yet because it does take away from our employment, and I don't want to see reduced employment. I would much rather keep things as they are right now. The steam donkey was mainly a stepping stone to get us all the way down to the pump jacks, which in turn will allow us to improve all of our plantations and increase the employment levels actually at these plantations, but also their productivity. We'll of course have to produce more engines to keep these guys going, but that's not going to be too much of a problem. And on the topic of increased production, I just want to take a look at our bureaucracy over here, because I'm fairly confident we should be able to produce a bit more bureaucracy just by getting our government admin buildings. Yes. Oh my goodness, we have so many more government admin buildings now. So let's go ahead and get the one at Madras over here, perhaps using the standardized filing systems. That will get us a significant bump in bureaucracy, which means that we can now go ahead to North Bengal and start incorporating it. We'll still have a bit of a surplus over here. I just want to make sure that I don't overdo the reliance on these higher level production methods, because obviously there's the paper cost that gets added at the higher levels, and I'm just not sure how much of a difference our additional usage of the standardized filing system is going to make over here. We could perhaps consider reducing the cost of paper by upgrading our paper mills, and I do believe that some of our paper mills are still using the older production methods just to keep the cost of sulfur down. Yes, so over here in South Bengal, perhaps we start using paper bleaching, and that should keep the price of paper manageable and palpable for our pops. And you know what, we could do the same to our paper mills in Delhi as well, get them using paper bleaching. But it looks like while sulfur costs are okay in Delhi, in South Bengal, oh, weird. I could have sworn I saw the paper costs were, there we go, sulfur costs in Punjab are too high. Oh, is Punjab seeing market access issues? Fair enough. We've overdone the development of Punjab. We need to build some more railways over here, so we'll get on that ASAP to make sure costs stay manageable. But I'm glad I noticed that. I don't think we'll prioritize that over Madras for the time being, but as soon as these ports are done, we'll see what the financial situation is looking like and perhaps pursue a railway at Punjab to again counteract some of the ill effects of poor market access. But with the increased paper production and the incorporation of North Bengal, we should see a pretty solid increase in our tax revenue as well. And the reason why I'm incorporating North Bengal before I incorporated Madras or Bombay is simply because of the GDP output of North Bengal compared to that of Madras and Bombay. It's 3 times that of Bombay and twice that of Madras, give or take a couple million. But I think that's the way to go. It'll probably end up being significantly more taxes, and it'll probably help us a lot more quickly than if we chased after Madras and Bombay. They will all take just 5 years to incorporate if I want to pursue them all, but I just want to be careful, of course, not to overdo it and find ourselves at a deficit once more. That would not be ideal, obviously. And would you look at that, we now have total separation. Absolutely beautiful. That means discrimination should stop causing issues across the nation, as all religions will be accepted based on always, whatever that means, and all cultures are also going to be accepted because we have multiculturalism. I really hope to see the radical count decrease over time as, again, discrimination should stop being a problem. And again, this should mean that they're making more money as well, that their social mobility is increased too. So a lot of benefits to removing discrimination. That is very exciting, folks. And it's also exciting to see this number start to drop so quickly. We're actually doing pretty well over here. I mean, again, if we take a look at this, negative 4.54 million from increases in standard of living. That is, in my humble opinion, a fantastic job. We'll, of course, have to keep it up to help keep it down, but I'm feeling pretty good about the situation so far, while the loyalist count is also looking pretty all right. I think we'll cross that 500K barrier pretty soon, so that's promising. And our GDP, my goodness, look at that jump. We're number 3 worldwide now, just above Great Britain. Are you for real? Wow. Wow, in one fell swoop. I think it was maybe the adjustments we made to paper production and the cost of sulfur and things like that. Maybe that's what did the trick over here, but we have passed Great Britain as far as gross domestic product is concerned. That makes me very, very happy. Oh my goodness. Things are looking great, folks. We have won our wars on all 3 fronts as declared at the beginning of this session. We have defeated the East India Company. We have continued to see progress across the board in using that investment pool. We have drained it in its entirety, in fact, to get the development out of it. And we have managed to see the total separation of religion and state. I was going to say church and state, perhaps I should say Gurdwara and state, and it looks like our name has actually changed as well. We are no longer the Sikh Empire, we are now Punjab. My goodness, oh, that's so cool. That's such a nice touch. We are still a Khalsa state, and that'll change if our political, approach and stylings change, but we have gone now from being the Sikh Empire to being Punjab. Yes, of course, because the faith no longer plays a major role in our nation's identity. That is so cool, folks, and that is the note upon which we shall end this session. Next time, we'll see a moment of peace, at least for the next 5 years, as we continue to develop our nation and as we pursue education and all that good stuff, while fighting against the desire to restrict child labor and the desire to secede from this beautiful Punjabi empire that we are creating. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this session. I'm looking forward to the next one. Again, there will be a lot of development in peacetime, but we will also dive into our next war next session, I think, to completely landlock the vast majority of East India Company territory and perhaps even transfer some of their holdings down in the south over here. We'll see how it all plays out, folks, but if you enjoyed this session, please don't hesitate to keep letting me know by leaving those likes and comments down below. As always, they make a very big difference in just letting me know what people are enjoying on the channel. Lets me know what I should keep doing, speed up, slow down. Y'all know the drill by now if you're familiar with the channel. And of course, as always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big ol' thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.